Okay, let's talk about keys, not the metal ones in your pocket. In 2025, our entire digital world runs on a different kind of key. Today, we're going to look at who's forging the most powerful new ones and, what happens when they get into the wrong hands. So let's kick things off with a little thought experiment. What if you had one single key, a master key, that could open every single door in the digital world? Imagine that. One tool to connect to any service, grab any piece of data, and build, well, pretty much anything you can dream up. Well, that's pretty much what an API is. It's that digital key. It's the thing that lets different apps talk to each other, share data, and unlock all sorts of functionality. From your social media feed updating to the app you use to order coffee, APIs are the invisible engines making it all happen. And right now, this whole world of digital keys is exploding on two really different fronts. I mean, they're both pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but in totally opposite directions. On one side, you've got this big push for decentralization. And on the other, it's an all-out race to completely dominate the world of AI.
So take a look at this. On one hand, you have innovators like Blue Sky. They're using their API on something called the AAT protocol to build a decentralized social network. The whole idea there is to put you, the user, back in control. But then at the exact same time, you've got a giant like OpenAI using its API for almost the opposite reason, to centralize and totally own the world of AI by making it so easy and cheap for every single developer on the planet to use their tools.
Now, this is super interesting. To keep its growing ecosystem safe, Blue Sky is ditching old-school app passwords. Instead, they're jumping on modern standards like OAuth. What that does is it introduces these short-lived, or ephemeral, tokens. You can just think of them as digital keys that literally self-destruct after a few minutes. It's a brilliant move, because it drastically shrinks the window of opportunity for an attacker if a key ever gets stolen. Meanwhile, OpenAI, they made a massive play to get their keys into as many hands as they possibly could. Back in June of 2025, they just slashed the price of their O3 model API by a staggering 80%. And look, this wasn't just some holiday sale. No way. This was a clear, loud signal to the entire market. Build with our AI. We're going to make it so cheap for you to innovate, it's a no-brainer. Okay, but here's the flip side. With millions of these super powerful new keys being created and passed around, a huge risk starts to creep in. Because let's be real, when one of these digital keys falls into the wrong hands, the consequences, they can be absolutely catastrophic. And listen, this is not some theoretical what-if scenario. A recent report found that a shocking, and I mean shocking, 99% of organizations had an API security incident in just the last year. Let that sink in, 99%. So for basically everyone, it's not a question of if a key is going to get leaked, it's just a matter of when. And you don't have to look far to see the proof. The headlines are full of it. We've seen some absolutely massive, high-profile leaks, like in December 2024, the Postman breach. That exposed 30,000 workspaces, leaking live active API keys for who knows how many services, including incredibly sensitive health data. Then, just this past July, a developer at XAI made a simple mistake and accidentally posted a private API key on GitHub. Just like that, the public had access to over 50 of their big language models. I mean, just think about that for a second. One simple mistake, a copy-paste into the wrong window on a public website, and boom, you've got a major security crisis with potentially massive fallout, even exposing sensitive government data. That is the incredible power and the terrifying peril of a single tiny API key. So the big question is, how is the industry responding to this, this clear and present danger? Well, they're definitely not just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. Nope. They're writing a completely new playbook for how to manage and govern these keys when you're dealing with thousands or even millions of them. And it all starts with the fundamentals, the absolute basics. Number one, never ever hard code your keys. That just means don't paste them directly into your application's code where anyone can find them. Use a secure secrets manager instead. It's a must. Number two, rotate your keys regularly. Think of it just like changing your password. In fact, major players like AWS recommend doing it at least every 90 days. And third, just like we saw with Blue Sky, use those temporary tokens whenever you possibly can. It just makes sense. And to actually enforce these rules, the big cloud platforms, we're talking AWS, Azure, Google, they are all pushing developers away from using static, permanent keys. For example, AWS is all about using temporary credentials with its IAM roles. Azure, they encourage you to have separate keys for admin stuff versus just reading data. And Google is really pushing the secure OAuth standard for any kind of user data, saving the simple API keys for public info only. You can see the pattern here, right? It's all about limiting risk.
But let's be honest. Looking ahead, the sheer scale of this problem is just too big for manual best practices alone. You can't just rely on developers following a checklist. The future of API security has to be smarter. It has to be intelligent, and maybe most importantly, it has to be automated. And that's why we're seeing big companies adopt something called an AI gateway. The best way to think of it is like a super smart, centralized traffic cop for all your API requests. It sits right in front of all your AI models and automatically handles all the security and authentication. It balances requests to stop things from getting overloaded. It can even, in real time, pick the cheapest or the fastest model for whatever task you're doing. It's basically security and efficiency all rolled into one. So what's next? Well, we're going to make that traffic cop even smarter. The next generation of this stuff is completely AI-driven. We're talking about tools that use machine learning to watch your API traffic 24/7. They learn what's normal for your systems, and then they can instantly flag any weird behavior that might be an attack. They'll even get good enough to predict problems, like a huge traffic spike, before it even happens. So it all comes down to this. In a world run by APIs, are you a master of the keys, or are you just leaving the door unlocked? Because managing these digital keys, it's not just some technical task for the IT department anymore, not by a long shot. As everyone from OpenAI to Blue Sky builds our entire digital future on top of APIs, securing those keys has become a core strategic challenge. The real question for every single organization out there isn't just about what you can build with your keys. It's about whether you're actually protecting the kingdom they unlock.